I enjoy it so much because I feel like I can be freer with that application than sometimes I am with my oil painting. But I teach all subject matter, and I love it all, and that way I don't get bored. So,
So when you
mhm.
do watercolor and pastel, do you use like pastel mat for the
I
background?
use U art paper.
Oh, you are.
Yeah, a
Okay.
little
I
more
was just
to
wondering how it would work with the watercolor.
it's good. It holds up. Um, but the pastel mat's a little too fine for that. So, anyway, we have had our school for 36 years, not 28 years. That's old information. But it's been around a while. Yeah. Wow. So, okay, so let's see, am I blocking this painting up
Well,
there?
no, I'll switch it when you start talking about it.
Okay, so I guess this is our first piece here. This is a really, I love the way the grouping of these walkers are with their umbrellas and how they connect to their reflections here. Um, there's a nice harmony of the color. I think the one thing that it could have been enhanced a little bit more is I think, just the big bricks on the building. Even though it's just a background, it feels like there could have been a little more finesse, a little more time taken with a couple of, or two or three of the bricks uh, to show form, because it's just very flat. There's a lot of form all over with the people, the figures, the tree, even the windows, but then the bricks fall really flat. If there is some interest in that background behind them, it can be simple. You don't want it distracting, but something to show there a little more finesse and care to identify a few of them for some form. Because and possibly a thing that might also have helped with this little piece is maybe bringing a few branches of the tree over to the left, over across the building a little, just to change up the shape of the big old square of the building. That might be kind of a nice little frame of just dropping over a little bit of this tree out here. If I don't know how much it's set back, but um, anyway, nice little piece. Edges played on the figures are good. You feel like they're in and out. Um, some behind, some front, and it's not too tight. I think it just moves together really nice, the group of people. Okay.
I have a question, it's my Denny's. The street light, it just bothers me. Should I move it? Should I just take it out?
It is in a kind of alignment with maybe too many things. If it was, it might be, this is almost a lot in the middle, but it might be better to see it so it doesn't block a window underneath it and the crowd way left. That's too far over, I think, for attention. That would be too far. I mean, it could be, yeah, and that's kind of tight in between those windows too. I almost just feel like maybe it's still just come over a little bit in that direction. Might be a better balance. Yes, yes. So very nice. Really a beautiful piece. It's very, the watercolor itself is handled just so professionally in so many ways. I really love, this little section of the flowers and how there's just enough attention into that area with the way the darks are played around these flowers in this section, some variety of the good darks. So it helps to bring a little more attention to those areas versus the top kind of fades up and away from that a bit. And I like that, these hollyhock stems, they have flowers on all sides of them. And you can feel like the ones that are behind so nicely. So it's got some real fullness in that whole stalk. And the way the edges are so softened back there in the distance, it keeps them in their place where you have just a great, like, contrasting, harder edges up in the front. Um, Even this little petal off to the side is kind of a nice balance. It doesn't take too much attention really away from this area. Um, Even the leaves and the little pods are so carefully handled with their shapes and the lighting. Um, Even the ones in back, fading off. But great color temperatures throughout. Like in the greens, the color temperatures are really balanced. And, with these gray colors in the background, they float through some of the shadows nicely with the pinks. So you got cool and warm, and the overlaps are good. Just, I don't think there's anything negative really, or
Flower. And
um, maybe if anything, maybe the shape could be just a little more interesting in it.
Okay.
The leaf shape under it is really a sweet little shape and very nice. And so this is kind of really rounded. If anything sticking out over there, maybe it could have a couple little sharp edges or something a little more unique to that. Would make it even a little nice.
The flowers are, we have five curve,
Mm-hmm.
just draws your eye. Right?
Yeah, it's a great little grouping. Yeah, it's
The center of the flower, if you look on TV, they seem dark, just a little bit darker to give that depth.
yes.
I
Yeah,
just-
this is, really you see this better than up on the screen. It's it's really richer. You're seeing the real painting. Yeah, very just beautiful. Yeah, great control of the edges of between every flower. You feel like you just keep moving through there and you're not stuck on just, abruptness ending between things. Just very nice. Then when you get them on the internet and there's people send pictures. So this is one of those which is really much better from life than the photo I got sent to me. What I really noticed the most is how rich the colors are in the real painting, especially the piano. This is a sweet little piece also. Uh, just very natural in the way that the clothing is handled, the softness, the little pleats without being too much, little reflection, so there's not just a flat surface. You really feel the shine of the furniture, and the keys, not being too strong where they're taking all the attention, which they could, the little white little teeth across there. But they're handled nicely. Her skin, her hair, probably could have a couple more simpler areas. There's a sometimes you can really get carried away with so many curls and individualness, but there's a nice little softer spot right here where it's a little flatter, and I feel like maybe on this side of her head a little could have a little less highlight and simplify some of the strands. But that's, it's just a little bit would make a nice difference. The curls that are come down along her body around are just beautifully handled, and there's nice different lighting to them and temperature change in them too, which is really interesting. Paid attention to the temperature change on some of these curls get a little whiter, a little grayer, and then these ones out here by the piano, they're warmer, and that goes into the rich warm. So really somebody is recognizing the difference that plays in the balance and the turn of the figure. It's really beautiful. I don't think, I think that's the only little the critical thing I would mention is be careful not to fall so in love with the hair and the curls that you just want all of them. Sometimes then you don't notice the beauty of it if there's just so many. So yeah, really beautifully done. Without, the background around the flowers, just sort of open and airy. It adds a delicateness to the feel and connection to the vase. It's nice. Um, there probably could have been like maybe one flower here that might even stand out more than all the others. Right now they all have a similar attention to them. So sometimes, well, for one thing, when you have a group of flowers in a bouquet or something, the darks that are in the tightest area in between those flowers are always the darkest. And they they should be there. They really show some depth into the painting, into the cluster of flowers. It's like when you get away from them, you see the individual color out in front a little more, but you don't want them to be the same value inside the cluster as outside. So it could be, it plays the flowers as being a little bit flat without having some of that dark in the middle. Um, and so yeah, that into that some of those little spots. Um, there's some really nice shapes to some of these petals down here too, and I admire that. And then, then this big one here, I think almost is too many of the round, round, round. Really think sometimes petals of a flower, they are their own character. So treat them all as something, a little different, fun to look at, change them up a bit to make them more interesting. So that one almost could have a little more variety because it's the biggest flower. Maybe a little more contrast around it if you wanted it to stand out more. But it looks like this would be the area you really kind of want to look at if you had some of those darks because the characters of the petals are so nice. Um, I like that some of them say a little bit more undone in the back. It fills it out. And some beautiful little blends overlapping of the warm and cool temperatures again. Uh, and this is just kind of interesting. I think is working too, not having an edge over here. That's kind of a nice little different thing that's happening. I like to look all around the edges of the painting to see how it's all treated. And, I think that's interesting too. It is handled differently around. Um, so let's see. I think that's the main thing on this one. Just a little extra dark in there would make a big difference. I didn't see this one before. So that's, yeah, you guys getting a lot of glare on the screen one on it?
No,
It's okay?
colors are so much better on the painting than they
Yeah.
are on the screen.
So this is really a really sweet little piece. Really, I love the background, how it's played up behind these yellow leaves. There's a nice fluidness, back there, warmth, uh, the temperature balance is really good, textures. Um, even the little spaces, the little negative piece areas behind the stems and the branches are nice in here. I think there's nothing boring about that little background, which sometimes is a real problem when you have a lot of greens together and without making too many individual shapes that are hard edged. And because they're really so soft and just enough hard edges on the branch, um, it makes you really have to focus on those front yellow leaves. And the colors on the front yellow ones are, I think, really beautiful. Just the little tints that was added to the yellow, the little oranges and little green spots. It's got great character without being, too hard edged. I mean, there's a lot of hard edges, but it's balanced enough with the soft edges above it. Same on this guy, the lower one. Um, and I like the little red berry touch, the fine lines. I always feel like one of the things I look at and think about sometimes is a great painter I painted with one time. He always said painting should have mass, lines, and dots. That covered the whole, a big range, a variety of your line work so that you didn't get stuck doing the same sizes all the time, but you had full masses somewhere in your painting and you have little dots somewhere and you have fine lines. So you caressed it to a fine point someplace in the painting. And I think this little piece has got that kind of arrangement when I look at the lines of the viney things and the little red dots and just the little soft blends, whole totally lost edges. Yeah, it's really, I think, very well done. Great lights, great darks. Very nice. This is a really pretty piece too. Great textures. It's full of wonderful textures. Um, the flowers in front are so sweet. good edges, good attention. Got a little star guy here that's really jumping for attention. Um, I love how you come off of that strong light into this little soft faded light also sort of helps spread the light out so it's just not so tight in one area. Um, and there's just enough edges to keep it the violet color separated from the lily, the water and the lilies behind it. Um, this is a nice little piece out in front too. I think, I love the combination when you're pulling these violets into the greens and then a little warmth, little siennas and um, colors. The warmth really balances out the coolness of the flowers. So that's really working well. Sometimes I think this little flower will bother me a little bit just because I think it's really such a straight soldier and it's got that white coming all the way up the long dark stem where it feels like it needs to be relaxed a little bit. Maybe just breaking that line a bit. Um, this one here feels more relaxed and you don't look at it so much on the edge. But I think that could be one little improvement on that guy, just that little part. Um, I like that you stay up in this area too in here with the edge, more edges on this guy, but at the same time enough soft edges. And the corners are just diffused beautifully, um, support the rest, of what's going on in the painting, the flowers. All these great little edges. Look at that nice dark area that's just fun. It's got a lot of exciting little colors and textures and drips and into there. So whole composition feels really well balanced, really wonderful. Yeah, it's beautiful. The sensitivity to all this little texture in this whole little front area, very nice, and it sets the foreground beautifully. Yeah.
Would you, the water, the color of the blue that's in the water, would you put some of that in the sky or do you think that matters?
That's what I just said in the beginning. I feel like
Water.
it has some in the water. You might not see it from your spot. It has, I think, maybe enough. But if the blue was balanced a little stronger somewhere, I think yeah, that would, because if you just a glance you look at them, and they don't go together quite until you get up close, and then you see little touches, but not quite strong enough, maybe in there. Yeah, but the blue in the water, and it has some of the violet, and it also has some of the green on this side, which I don't know if you can see, but so it's coming in different places. Maybe the edge of the back of that little pond, maybe there could be a soft edge there too, instead of as hard all the way around.
You could just move the bright blue down to some of the foliage. Also, which is a little bit of the sky to that bridge.
Mhm.
Such a pretty, but it's just in that one spot.
Mhm.
I'm
There is pieces of it that are more subtle in it when you look up close. Mhm. But yeah, very good. Oh, what did you name it?
He goes everywhere.
It goes everywhere.
I
Oh my goodness, yeah, that's a tricky one. I think that is the beauty of it is the leaf shapes, all the shapes. It's just they're playful. I think this has, like it's got a lot of good edges going on here. Um, it's hard to know exactly where the center of interest would be because there's just a lot of dark and light around throughout the piece. So if I had to kind of think of where we really wanted me to go, I think maybe I would say maybe in here.
Yeah.
And so that might mean these darks could be lighter up above that to take some attention off of these upper pieces. even some of the darks that are down in here, most of them are pretty hard edged against the flowers. So you can change that up a little bit, have some of both kind of edges in each of those holes. Here, this is a nice, it has a little more variety, a little softer. Um, and I like that it's open out here instead of just a big dark all the way. Yeah, that seems to work. You got some nice little pieces, which also help cause a little extra attention too, just a difference in size that you have. And some of these almost look like little stems coming in from the back side, or I think that's really a nice little area. Colors are just great, and the fluidus, you move through it nicely. But if you really wanted to focus on that even more, kind of watch how you treat all the corners, that they're not as equally interesting just everywhere, particularly. Yeah. If in the darks, that might be one thing to think about too, that right now they all look very violet, like plum-like. So you can mix up the flavors of the dark too. You can add some green, some of the dark green into it, even a little bit of a dark brown, some of them, so that they don't feel quite so much the same. Interesting. And it's yours.
Now, whose is this?
Okay. Okay. So I feel like this is really a nice, strong design going on here. I love the big old mansion in the back. This foreground is, really interesting, and the colors. So yeah, there's a lot of design elements to look at in here, and textures. And I think, having the front of it is interesting, but it's not too tight, and it's not enough to take me away from this. So right back at that building and the tree, this area is really well done. It's so defined, just enough detail, just enough hard edges, great colors in the tree and the trunk and the handling of branches. Um, I could almost feel like I'd miss a little bit more blue maybe in some of this trunk, because of the blue in this is just really nice. It could bring a little more strength and a little fun even to that front tree in there. Um, but I think all this feels good to me. All these little layers. I love that you've got layers going back from the front all the way back, all those little layers of colors. It helps pull you back and show some dimension into this perspective. Just enough information on these big trees. They're interesting enough without being too much. I wonder if maybe there could maybe be even a little more dark, possibly kind of pulled through here to make it more different here than down here. So it'd be strong in front and then diminish as you're going back just a little.
The perspective on the veg bothers me. It seems like it's not. Again, the top of the veg, the veg should be a little bit, the angle should be a little bit more acute.
It's a little rounded, but it's floating a little bit. Yeah, I think it's just it feels just a little bit like it's floating sort of in here with the hard contrast underneath it with the dark and light. You can diminish that attention, and then it would settle it down to the ground a little bit. Then I think you just wouldn't pay that much attention to it
Need a
otherwise.
shadow?
Pardon me?
Does it need a shadow?
Well, it has shadows behind it, which seem like the right direction. But shadows and the connecting at the bottom of it, muting those lights more to the ground level would settle it to the ground, and where you won't look at the whole shape as much. Yeah.
Again, about how to soften the edge to set it down.
To settle it down, like because it has this really dark against light and dark against light, you can take any medium value. You could take these subtle greens and warmths, these yellowy colors. They're a nice transition between something that dark and the light, and just feather it across that bottom edge of the bench. And you wouldn't then you just wouldn't pay attention to the whole thing because you're not seeing all the edges so clearly. So that it just takes a little thing like that makes a big difference. It's like when you're painting a figure at a table and you pay attention to the whole top of the figure, but you minimize the whole bottom of the person and the under the table. You just eliminate all that because you want everybody to come up to the top part. Sort of even a little thing like that make a difference. So
Building.
it's sweet. It's really a good, nice little building. Yeah, just enough attention to it, without being too stark and contrasty. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was walking on Sunday.
Oh,
Wait a minute.
yeah. It feels very spring-like, springtime. It feels the season too. It really feels the season nicely.
You should probably take a break right now.
Okay,
We'll take a break.
all right.
Yeah.
I think all these little patterns work and they just mute in nicely to the bird. Reflection seems good. It's just not too much. Sometimes I think sometimes if you're working from a photo and there's something funny that in the reflection, people think it has to be so matchy all the way through. But if a shape doesn't work well, it just um, seems like it's questionable. I always feel like, should change it a little bit, make it feel better. Because who else is going to look at that photo that you worked from? And if it makes the painting look better. So I'm just on here, this little kink where this little white reflection pulls out is, it's okay, but maybe it doesn't have to be quite so directional because I kind of keep looking at that and I don't really want to be looking at that because I want to be, looking up at his head. But um, sometimes I might just eliminate that a little bit. Maybe just put a little more of that brown color there or, enhance the green a little bit, but kind of watch some different directions that might be cast in from the shadow. Um, let's see. So on something like this too, when you have a head, whether a figure or an animal or something, uh, something that would really be good for you to play with is, when you have the same value all the way around it, it's got all the attention it needs, but a lot of times you can make it more interesting by changing the value around the head. It's a great learning thing to do, even if you just see that, trying to change it up a little bit, because what you learn from it, you can apply to so many paintings to make them better. Like I think a lot of times if you add a light, a medium, and a dark somehow around that head, you got all kinds of attention in beautiful ways that support it. Um, so and it allows you to have more soft edges and hard edges, that kind of contrast as well. So, you might even want to try this again on another little painting and play with the values around. You can have some darker blue under here. So maybe you didn't look at the underside as much, and maybe you had a lighter next to the blue in front, so you had attention at the top of the head, or back here, maybe a little more medium value that the back of the head would flow into. Just changing up those values a little is a great learning tool, and it's really helping your whole growth of painting, to experiment and play with that because you can just bring so much more interest to that area. I mean, it's definitely in focus. You don't have that problem, but more interest, more fun, um, and energy. So else to um, say that there could be improvement on at all. It's really, really nicely done. Yeah, very nice. So that's something else that if fences are kind of, really can be a lot of fun if you free up on them sometimes and really just go for some extremes like in color temperature changes or shapes or falling down and decrepit, more colors in them. Play with fences because they can add a lot. So I think there could be a lot more interest in there with the fence if there was more variation. You got some nice heights and it's rolling, but maybe that's you could have angled tops on a few of those boards, or maybe you could blow some of this blue-gray color into some of the boards, just to combine a little bit more of the temperatures together. Um, so, and maybe, this, because you have the heavier blue dark back here, maybe the shadows under here could also be balanced with a little bit more of that dark to settle it, ground the chairs. Maybe little dark accents, some little pockets around the fences. So you want to bounce that dark around a few other places.
Just wanna ask her, what's the vertical divide?
This piece,
It was like.
It-
And so it was something behind it, like being a bath.
maybe a towel or something.
No, it was beaches in winter, so that was painted,
Oh.
that was a weeks ago out in Evanston. So they're all like stands are all stacked on top of each other on the stools on top of I think it was like, maybe one of those bathrooms or something, I don't know, I mean, maybe I should take that back, they should paint it on.
It might even be fun to, I don't know, maybe put one of those darks on one or two fence posts a little bit. Just a balance and, those are good things to experiment with. It's not there, but what can make it better?
So now that was me.
Yes.
The sky also help. I think it's always really hard when you're painting something white and it's on something light, which the sand is light and the sky is light. You've got clouds and you really like that whiteness of the structure.
Mhm.
How to make that, are there additional ways to make that white stand out?
Well, yeah, I mean, you could do some variation in the,
Change the color.
Darker, more dark side.
you kind of have to be a little careful because it is, when you're putting a shadow on that and then you darken this, that's going to also change it. So you'll have to maybe go really dark on this to make it show up against the medium. But the sky could have some more interest, even in the corners, changing the value one place or other, or shape of a cloud moving. Sometimes you just need an interesting shape there as well, and a value change. But it could wisp through here some little part. Yeah, yeah, that's another good idea. Sketch. So it's like just a sweet little sketch. Little figures, nice in here. That really love this organic shape. It's nice to have some organic material when you're in a little city or town. Because of all the structure, it just really breaks up and adds some softness. So we're really looking at this little, just mainly this little yellow building in the front, and it's got a nice, I like that little shadow coming across the front of it to break up some of that yellow. When I'm looking to the back though, in this little section here, I feel like that blue is really strong to be way, way back at the street. So maybe to keep a perspective of the front window, which is so dark already, green, that the back, to create that illusion of depth and distance, just gray it down and soften it. That intense color wouldn't pop that much in general.
That's mine.
Oh, is it? So yeah, just soft. So yeah, soften to keep that building back in there. So is that a sweet little lamp like that? These are nice just that little edge. So if I'm looking at the right side, I'm just thinking, what do we need anything particular on that? What it seems like it's sort of missing is something organic on that side to balance this a little bit. Sometimes you can make something up by putting something on the ground at the lower or a window box with some overhang is really kind of nice too. It would help, keep something more in front, and then as you're going into the painting, things diffuse and go away. But it would, like this is so strong because it really feels in front, and then this is going back. But this is not much of that going on that side, which might be fun to invent a little bit.
Each on the lower left, the lavender purple, come along the street on an angle
Cross here.
from the foliage down to the middle, and it would repeat that angle of the shadow going up on the yellow. Low
In here, right in here. Sorry.
on the street in front of the foliage,
Yeah.
and then shooting over, making a little darker. No, shooting down to the bottom of the. Oh, toward the foreground.
So those planters don't sit on the ground well enough.
Like that,
Oh,
and that would
yeah.
kind of, it would, anchor it, the angle, and would also darken that fur, because that fur doesn't have any light. It's a street, that's a wall.
Yeah, but it doesn't really need any light because it is just in that corner.
Need like.
Yeah. But it's dark compared to this. So it has enough nice distance between the two. And I think it's okay. It's okay there.
I think the mix is the, of both my lamp.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of went really faint and stopped adding detail because I didn't know what detail to add. So it feels all kind of one note and pale. Everything to the upper right from the lamp.
Oh, up in here, you mean, or on the lamp? Yeah.
Didn't know what to do, so I stopped. I learned that here.
Sometimes even just a few suggestions of a little bit of darkness for windows will just give you a little shape and another value. So it adds like some detail to it instead of just being the flat in the sketch. So, like you did these little, you could still add a couple of those and they're not too much. And,
Is this from a photo or?
Yeah. No, I didn't sit on the corner in Italy. Yes.
They lean,
Oh, yeah.
so you need the windows on the left, guys, straight. Huh? Because they're leaning, falling in.
I just,
It's our cookie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, always straight.
I mean, is it 2 o'clock or 1 o'clock or where is the sun?
A painter should know that.
You did Thomas Schaller this one.
Yeah, I really. Because do I have a sign for like place in my name?
Well, so I'm looking at the yellow and I'm looking at the diagonal.
Yeah.
I see the sun as being like 2 o'clock maybe and behind this building on the way. So I would think that building would actually be much darker than that.
Yeah, I would think it would be the darkest.
I would do like a Thomas Schaller, make the whole on the right all dark and come in hit your foreground. Like Schaller does, he does the really
just like glazing that down
yeah,
darker.
down in the shadow, like Tony was saying. I would
That would-
Behind that building on the right.
Right, the sun's got an angle at the corner of the buildings going down, yeah.
When you see that building, you mean the yellow one or the orange one?
They're right.
You're the really dark. Yeah.
Isn't this diagonal on the yellow building?
Okay, that makes sense. Maybe that's why pale feels wrong to me.
Yeah, right. And that would down.
I got 1,000 different ideas.
Yeah, yeah.
Tonight, sorry.
The main thing I see on this one, I'm kind of squinting at it, is really the dark line in the back, the horizon line. I see that. I don't see a whole lot of other things. So when you're doing a little piece like that and you've got these tree lines around, use those as your design element and get a few little bigger shapes in there, masses of color, because when they're all sort of delicate and dotted in, it sort of disappears when you step away from it. So you want to have some form that's edging against the sky so that you can see design. Because there's no edge to the big shapes that are sort of around the water. So, and sometimes then you can think of that main little base color as a temperature, and you can, like the whole back tree line could just be washed in with a little bit of a light blue green gray back there to just keep it in the distance to just show that's a really far away tree line. And then that color would show up against the sky, that light sky, and then have fun with the shape of it, the top of it, where it's a little more of a, an edge, a structure. It gives you the opportunity to soften edges back there, create a little hard edge. And so the same on the sides, on say the left side, it's just little dots to make those trees, but it doesn't have some strength to pull a viewer in without a little bit more of a mass of tone. So you could get a little bit darker in this base and then add your light. But when all the tops are the similar, they disappear. So same over here. On this side, you need something behind those trees because they feel like there's nothing behind them, just white. So you need a mass of some darkness. And when you're thinking about on each side of the water, those tree shapes, think of different color as a base. So they're different from left to right. This could be a different shade of a green dark. This could be a different shade of a medium dark. You add other little flavors into it, but you can still enhance on top of that with a little detail. But yeah, try to get a little braver and work a little bit more mass in some of the base of that. Um, when you have the dark horizon line to break that up a little bit, soften an edge in the middle here and there, because that's generally more what you'll see. It's not generally be that hard all the way across to so much. And the water way back there would also get a little bit lighter in general, right at that shoreline. So it'll take attention off of that drawn dark line. So you want to play that value up, that dark line, as well as, just like you could have the watercolor like this if that line was just broken in a couple of places. And so what does that happen? What that does too, I always think it helps to bring sections together. There's an overlap, an integration that needs to happen with the subject, what's in front of it, what behind it. If there's no integration and it's so separated, everything seems separated instead of intertwined. So those separations, those soft edges, make everything feel like it is working together. That it's a big deal, and when you start to notice that. So I would keep that in mind. Nice little feel in the texture in front, like in the water, it feels like it's moving. There's some wave, little action happen. It's really sweet. And I'm enjoying the front part of this too. There's just a nice, a little detail that's nice, some value and temperature changes, and I think that works very nicely. So think about the backs. That's the strength of the painting would be that, since everything is flat in front, sand and water. Yeah, it has a nice feel of the Northern Lights for sure. Those colors coming through, it just feels like there's that great shine just passing through with energy. It has the sweet little stars added in there, just a nice touch. Um, I couldn't see much separation in here on the computer at home, but I see it better now that you've got just a little bit of form even in those dark trees, which is nice instead of a big dark block and mass.
It was hard to photograph that.
Oh,
Metallic peak,
yeah.
so it was
I bet.
metallic watercolor.
Oh, yeah, the shapes of the trees are really nice on both sides. This one's kind of maybe could be a little more delicately touched. It's kind of quirky.
I did. Oh.
Ah, what did you say about
The
that?
black
Oh, oh. Oh. Yeah. Well, that really helps with their trees, doesn't it?
They already started as dark masses.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Can you trim them out with all the light? So the little water shape in front is nice. I think maybe something I might look at a little bit more might be just sort of this little wavy one. If you have a lot of wave like that, sometimes it can be um, a little maybe too much unstructured. I might try to find a little structure in this piece, like some kind of angle. Sometimes you have too much wave around. It's like
Breaking up.
wobbly. Yeah, break it up with a couple of angles so you have some structure for direction where you're sending the viewer. And you have a good variety of the edges, the soft and hard on it, but it feels kind of snaky. I would play with that shape because it's kind of big shape, so you want it to be interesting.
Yeah,
A little more
the other bank.
Hmm?
Essentially, the other bank is very narrow,
Yes.
same place.
Mm-hmm. And it's a lot of the same light on the very bottom of that, so I just mix that up a little more to the shadow coming across part of that light edge. Sweet, the whole top part is really fun, and I really, this is a delightful little piece too. Just very playful, delicate, kind of dancing. I really like the attention of what's happening through this. It's a nice little focus into this very loose painting. There's still some nice focus area in it because of the play of values and color. Um, and that is and shapes. I mean, there's a good variety of everything going on. Um, the way I like all the way these outside pieces just they fill out the design, so the attention stays in that middle. And there are also so many great edges to all these outside pieces, the soft and the hard, and the temperature change, a little color variations. What I also think is really well done is just the flower petals, how they all they overlap, they connect, they're part of the leaves in some cases. And it's not everything so separate. And I think that makes the design better because you just fluidly just move throughout it easily. But those darks are really powerful. They really do a great job in here to pull all those bigger flowers together to the stem, just enough little separation of layers of leaves coming out, good grounding to the base. Got something a little different in each of your corners going on. Um, yeah.
There's almost a little shape of one of the flowers that looks like a hummingbird in there. Do you see that? On the left middle. It's really like a lovely surprise.
Can't tell.
Is that yours?
Nope.
Oh.
It was.
It's it's delightful little piece. Yeah. Oh, very nice, Mary. Do you? Oh man. Wow. I would say this could be done.
Yeah.
What about the bent, branch on the left corner?
This one?
Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah, I like it too. It's not like it's so pronounced that it sends you down. It's just a nice little shape. There's a little rhythm to it. It's just gently played up. Mm-mm. No, no. This is really fun too, really playful. I like you've got a couple well, you almost got two center of attentions here with the two guys in front. But I think you almost go to this one a little more because of more contrast around the flower with the bright colors and the dark colors kind of moving around it. Um, so this could be downplayed just a little, maybe just on the edge of the white could be subdued just a little bit more. I think, you know, the fluidness of the whole background, it feels nice. You've got, I think, you know, you got a nice layer behind the front layers. Maybe some could even be diffused a little bit more to feel even further behind, but not too much. I think the one thing that I think could maybe be a little bit easier on the eye is just in the vase itself, that this should be more subdued and softer. So you're really looking through glass, it's not as hard edged, things are softer, and it feels more like glass when you do that and take some attention off of the same hardness here as here, you know, all the stems the same. You really you want to show that it's glass. So different things happen looking through it. And I think when you see the beauty of that, it is really so nice and lovely. Um, it probably would also been nice to have like possibly a nice strong highlight on the glass, once a nice stronger piece of a white highlight, sometimes down one edge and maybe across one little part of the vase top, one little fine line. You've got these fine lines around in here that you've controlled, and but something really fine sometimes adds that little delicate finish um, of a glass piece. But all the rest of this dripping is all really lovely. Um, it's nice to see some of these darks. This dark maybe feels like it doesn't, I don't know what it quite belongs to, but maybe it would be better if it was just feathered down instead of hard edged in this little hole. We could be even, yeah, just pulling that dark against this guy too. So it's just a little shape that could be adjusted. Um, I like the way it's wrapping around the sides of the big flowers on the side. So I think that's kind of about all. You know, you have it's nice, the same kind of a detail that's throughout the painting. It's not like, you know, one thing has all the detail and it's nowhere else on and something like this, sometimes that can happen. But I feel like the details dispersed really nicely, evenly throughout. So it's pleasant. It's really pleasant. Feels good. Oh, pretty. So anytime you're doing like the ground in the forest, any parts of the groundwork, which is always so many interesting things, it's like really how do you simplify all that stuff? It's not easy. So there's a lot of nice things going on in this piece. These rocks, the ground, the little back. This is just beautiful. This background of light coming through, the delicate handling of bringing up those leaves in the distance. And these big old rocks feel good. So I think the thing in this piece that maybe bother me a little bit is the dark around these flowers. There's this, it's the same dark around the same flower. All the flowers being the same white petals, same little blue edge. So a lot of sameness here. I would, and sometimes that begins at a distance. You look across and it looks like a lot of big dark circles or spots. Sometimes a way to avoid that is pull a couple of those big pieces together, the darks together, let them connect with something else. So it looks like a bigger unit instead of a lot of small pieces. And or the whites can also look like that too, sort of polka dotted if they're all scattered around instead of some clusters of them, a couple of them together. Um, and there's a lot of same the edges on those, which I don't feel that you have that going on in any of the other leafy stuff and the log and the ground, but kind of got like that for the flowers. This feels a little better on this side here because they are some connections between them. They hold together that little section. So you kind of got to watch this too, because the light underneath them is very light, so it even makes more attention to each of those little dark mounds and then that white flower. So maybe decide, maybe a cluster that you would want to look at more and subdue other areas where there's just not as much contrast. But so much delightful little areas going on in that piece with textures. It's to hold your interest. Nice colors. It's kind of fun to see like a low horizon and then that big sky tree area. Uh, there's a nice connection between the colors and the harmony. Again with temperatures. The sidewalk, I love how it meanders on back. The curvature is kind of playful and fun. The shadows across it and the edges are nice, which so many times those edges can be a problem. They're too pronounced, too hard, too crispy, unnatural, and there's too much attention. And this is really sits down so nicely through the whole foreground.
What is this?
It's good.
Maybe.
Nice.
Yes.
That's Highland bud. Yeah. And it's really, really fun to see this connection of the dark patch. The colors up here are really beautiful. And it's kind of a mysteriousness with the branches fading in and out to get up there. The reach of them to that, that you can't always pull that off. Um, if I was to say anything, maybe if I'm looking across this section through here, maybe that's a lot of the same value from side to side. So it might be nice to have, how you have this dark bluish gray up in here, maybe a bigger little patch of that in a section, and then it moved to this, what you have, just to make one side a little, have another value change and color.
What about the
Okay.
second tree?
This one?
To me, it has a tangent on the sidewalk.
Oh, but it's so little of it.
Push it.
Um, the ground level is just, well, I don't know. It doesn't bother me that much because it's just a small little piece here and you feel that's going behind it. I mean, it could be a little softer, but it doesn't bother me too much there. Look at, I love this, that little grounding of that tree. Hmm. Um, but yeah, this is just really interesting how you've kind of broken up all of that trunk in just little magical ways. Just the sprinkling. Um, I think there's enough there to connect all that flower to the trunk. And, it's a nice playful. This is really fun how some of these little bigger pieces of the green peeping through and they're just kind of dancing up slowly through there. But this really balances this. And this helps pull it together, those trunks there. It's really nice. Yeah. Nice job.